Hello, everybody. Brian here from quantlabs.net. Today is July 13th. In this video, I wanted to highlight a history of a post I put up about July 2nd here. What it was just a coding walkthrough of a baby bot in Python for basic algo trading setup or system bot, whatever you want to call it. And there's a twist here because it's using ChatGPT for sentiment on whatever stock it is that you're interested or whatever, um, yeah, whatever trading asset you're interested in. Anyways, I did do a walkthrough of this, which was posted right here. There is this, which is the code on Pastebin. So let's go through this and wanted to highlight again, it's not too long, and I've got the code just in case this post disappears. I've not tried this, but I just want to give you a general overview of how these things work. If you're new in coding, this might help you. If you are advanced, this may not help you and just be a golly gee. And it's Python, but just to give you an idea what is involved in this. So this will probably be a fairly lengthy coding walkthrough. And again, this is a simple one, so you can see how involved this is, how much detail there is to make something a little more foolproof. All right, let's get started. So here's all your necessary packages. Here we set up an environment with within the OS environment uh, with the key to ChatGPT. And there's also one here for Alpha Vantage, so you get free data. So this is all free; it won't cost you anything for I don't know, just to play around with it and see what it does. Also in here is a interesting thing because for a repository of data or data store, it's using SQLite. Obviously, you want something a little more foolproof. What I would recommend is probably Postgres. That's free as well, but it's a lot more mature and a lot more fully rich, and it's a SQL, a true SQL uh, style database as well. I mean, everyone's got their own, so that's something I'd go with. It's free. So in here, we've got some functions defined, creating a table, saving the database. We've got here the fetch to the market data from Alpha Vantage. We have here handling any missing data. That's kind of important. So the person's using simple calculating technical indicators analysis using, I believe here, EMA, exponential moving average, MACD, and RSI, and Bollinger Band. Also, we are able to generate trading signals as well. And then that's not going to be hooked up to anything, but it's just more using data and showing you how to get that working. Um, Execute the trades. I believe, as I said, it's just to mimic the positions, and it's not connecting into any broker of any kind. So you have to build that out yourself. And then we have the main function as well. So probably what I'll do is I'll go over every function first, except for this one. I'll leave this to the end to generate the trading signals because that's a little more complicated. But it's a fairly um, straightforward. I call them trading scripts or Python scripts. So it's a fairly straightforward script. It does have pretty decent level of documentation to pick up what it's doing. I think it's self-explanatory in the code as well. So if you keep the code like this, you got my attention at least. All right, so what are we doing? So we've talked about the ChatGPT and the key for Alpha Vantage. We have here the create the connection using the DB file name. And it's SQLite, so it'll create and create the database for you, create and establish the connection. Then it's going to call the create the table. This is where it's getting interesting. This is very basic, very primitive. Uh, so it's going to capture all the calculations for the open, high, low, close, the timestamp of the data captured. So it's open, high, low, close. It does get a lot more complicated, obviously, when you start to get into bid and ask, and more HFT level stuff, high frequency trading. That can get very complicated very quickly. I've talked about a C++, what I'd look for, and C++ is hard for me because it's not easy, but that's what the industry uses. You want to get well paid. Like I've shown a one firm in the last 2 days that pays £3 million, British pounds, in London, UK. So I've talked enough about that, but it gets as high as that. That's per average staff member there. So here we're executing a statement to create a table. So you can see here what the data that we're collecting here, the table's columns. We've got open, high, low closes set, plus we're capturing the volume. We're capturing the MACD and MACD signal. We also got the RSI. We also have Bollinger, high and low, and price. I think that's the trading signal itself. So that's the data. And then we create a commit into the database. Any exception handling, we print out an error, so on and so forth. So now we collect the data, we process it. You can see here we're uh, passing in. I don't know what I'm not sure what kind of data structure that is, but I can probably figure it out. But either way, we connect into the database when we call this. Here's a connection object into the database. We do the insert using standard SQL. And then here within the row of the data, got some parsing going on here. And then we convert everything into float. So again, we have the open, high, low, close, the volume, MACD, the MACD signal, RSI, and the two Bollinger high and low, and the signal. So here you could see here, is it non-value? I believe it's a one or a two, but I'll get to that in a minute. So we have the fetch here, which is the last function I'm going to cover. And then here is the handling of missing data. So usually what this means, there could be gaps of some kind. If you're using Yahoo Finance, you'll find that a lot, and it disconnects the data. A lot of the data within a legitimate data source like Alpha Advantage may have actual real gaps. So you may see that. So it's trying to find ways to fill in that data um, so that it doesn't screw up the analyzing of the data on the technical indicators here. Um, so that's what we do here in the calculate technical indicators function. Again, we're using the data, the parameters that get passed into it. Um, so in here, we have a data of, I'll figure out what data structure it is, but it has a close, a short EMA, the MACD, MACD. We also have the delta. I guess you can obviously tell in the data close. That's a differentiation. And then also we have the RSI calculated using this methodology, um, calculating the delta over a rolling window that has been given within the data, and calculating the RSI along with the period, and then calculating the mean of that data range. So we know our loss and gain, which ones are losses, which ones are gains. Then we get a ratio on the RSI itself, as you can see here. And then we calculate the RSI. Now, there's other ways to calculate the RSI. One of my courses in the Python crypto trading course that's pretty lengthy. Let me see if I can find it for you. So if you go under my more here under program list, you'll notice here, and this is a Python course, Python version 3 trading infrastructure building block course. It's pretty lengthy. So I cover that topic among many others in there. And generally, I'm using a library called TALib, Technical Analysis Library, which is originally written in C++. So I've got a wrapper that you can use a wrapper to interface using Python as well. So you can kind of simplify the calls as well. And they're just simple arrays of different time series with the price. So that's another probably cleaner looking code, but this is how they calculate it. Again, we're using our Bollinger as well. So we have our rolling window in the data. So we have here period and closing price. Then we have calculating our mean, and then we also calculating our standard deviation. As I've said before in past videos, the usual easier ways to calculate things from a math perspective is mean, standard deviation, probably some moving average. There's only a few number of them for simple math and for speed as well. And once we get our rolling mean and our rolling standard deviation, we can calculate the Bollinger high using this. And again, I don't like getting into the math because I'm going to leave it up to you to figure that out. As I said in that course I mentioned, you can use TALib if it's easier to follow. So here we get our standard deviation as well, using the rolling standard deviation here, here, and so on. So we get our low and high metrics, and we return the data. Okay, so how many more functions have we got? One I skipped. Okay, let's talk about fetching the data. Okay, this is important. So the one I want to skip is this one, generate trading signals. It's a little more lengthier. We have here the execute trades will come to as well, and then what's in the main loop as well. To be truthful, this is a fairly intelligent script to do all the things that I'm listing here. I like this style of coding. Everyone has their own. One thing I don't like about people that use object-oriented programming in Python, which is really a scripting interpreted language, by doing those features or using those features for object-oriented, I find it very, very, very confusing. This is sequential and it's straightforward. I like it. When it comes to speed, I don't think this really matters. It only matters when you're looking at kind of like a sub-second, trying to compete with other HFT shops. That's when you got to really worry about speed. So we've covered the technical analysis here, or using the technical indicators. So let's go over to the fetch. The fetch should be fairly straightforward. Here we have our ticker name, IBM, Apple. So we're using pandas here. We have a time series that we set up, we capture using the alpha key, alpha vantage API key. And obviously we're asking it's probably part of the API using the pandas format. Me, I don't know that API, but I'm sure you can see that in the documentation. So here we need to get the metadata of the timestamp, intraday of the ticker, interval. This is important. 60 minutes, and output size is full. So I'm assuming it's going to involve the full open, high, low, close, and volume. So that gets built out here. You can see here. So looks like we are using data frame. No, it's not data frame. Time series. I don't. It could be for me. It would look like a data frame. Uh, Data structure. I don't know what kind of data structure it's returning. Um, but it could be a data frame, which I find is the easiest to use, and then returns the data once we capture everything from the Alpha Vantage API fetch. Okay, that's right here in the get intraday. Okay, so that's the function here for interfacing and downloading or fetching from Alpha Advantage. So we've covered this one, technical indicator. We'll leave the trading signal to the last. And here we've got the execute trades. All right, so this is how it works. So you have our signals, which is going to come from this function here, and then generate trading So here, when you look at the returns here, that's the signals that it's going to return. So we use that as an argument in the execute trades and are also our current position. Let me just make this bigger. Oh, I makes people's lives easier when you see it larger. Sorry about that. Okay, anyways, execute trades. So we go through a loop of signals and iterate through each one. We have a timestamp. Check if the time signal timestamp is within the market hour. Okay, so obviously you're going to check to see if it's within the 9:30 a.m. and the 16 or 4 p.m. time frame, and that's going to be. I'll take a large assumption New York time as well. And so if we have a signal equaling one and it's the very first current position, we print that out, and that could be a buy because the signal's equaling one. So that's like if you're going back in the C days, that'd be like signifying a one as a true. The current position is, well, that's your first, if it's zero base, that's your first element of the position. You execute the trade. And again, these are just dummy calls, right? So you'd be putting in your actual calls into your broker somewhere in here in this function. So here, if we have a signal being -1, I think it's in here somewhere where, yeah, right here. So this is what it signifies. Current position is equal to 0. 0 equals no position. 1 is long, and -1 is short. So that's what those mean. And that's very important to know, obviously. Some people may not think it's important, but for outsiders or somebody looking at this code, yeah, it's going to be important. So again, if the signal is uh, 1, current position is again no position. Okay, there's no position put out, and then we put out our executing the trade and enter into a long position. So somewhere in there, as I said, we'll have our actual call to the broker to send out the order. So if the signal is short, current position is 1, execute a sell trade, and then again reset the current position at 0. So it's right here. That comment says exiting the long position. If the signal is -1, current position is no position. And then we put in another entry, but this time it's a short position right here. So we set current position is equal to -1. And then if the signal is 1 and current position is short, then we do a cover trade or sell, and we put a log out there at this timestamp. And yeah, that's our exit short position. So that's the actual um, execute trades. So now let's go through the main logic here. So this right here will kick off this main function. So when you look at the main function here, we're just looking at ticker IBM. We have our database here, the name stockdata.db. So that's again SQLite. We create the connection, we create the table, and then we set our parameters here. So the initial parameters for technical indicator, you can fetch these from OpenAI if desired. So these are hard coded, short EMA of 12. That's, I believe, we're working on, was it hourly data? No, was it daily data? I can't remember our time frame. Yeah, whatever our time frame is set. I believe it was intraday 60 minutes, so it's hourly. Okay, so here, and back to this. We've got here our parameters get set right up here. Set our short EMA 12, long EMA at 26. Signal line is at 9. The RSI at 14 days. And the Bollinger, again, standard default period of 20 days, I believe, standard deviation of two. As I said before, standard deviation of two is within normal bounds. Like one would be normal, two would be kind of like pushing it either on the higher Bollinger, on the upper Bollinger, or the lower Bollinger of two. So that's your bounds of when to enter or exit using just Bollinger. On top of standard deviation of three would be considered very extreme. So again, we set our current position, which we already talked about. And then here we go into an infinite loop using while true. So we fetch the data. So we already got that. You can see here we got our ticker we send over. We get our new data. If there's some kind of exception, uh, we can either wait, gets an hour here, and then try to do another attempt. If there's missing data, well, we'll try to figure out how to handle that and get a new array, our new data set from that function, handle missing data. Then we have our calculate the technical indicators here with the new data and the initial parameters set up here. Okay, so let me see if we've already done the fetch. Yeah, so we've done the fetch right here on the 60-minute from Alpha Advantage. Okay, so let's that should we've not looked at is a fairly lengthy one. Or sorry, that's the generating trading signals we haven't looked at yet. So we'll come back to that in a sec. Um, so yeah, so we've got our new data set and we calculate the technical indicators as we hinted at, and we store them here in the new data with indicators using the new data structure along with the initial parameters. All right, so here is where it gets interesting. Generate your trading signals. Okay, so let's take a look at that big long function we haven't looked at yet. So here it is. Generate trading signals based on optimized parameters used in OpenAI. So that's already been set within the main function. So here we get our last 50 data points right here using this tail. And then, yeah, so looks like, I don't know if it's for a free account within ChatGPT, but from what I'm seeing and understanding, if it's free, you can only do 10 data points. Here we have to set up some kind of JSON. Um, and then again, I'm no expert here. So we do a reset on the index, convert it to a JSON using the orientation of records. Date format is standard ISO. So this includes a date stamp. So again, yeah, you'll have to take a detailed look at the recent index. So there's some little complexity there. I'm not going to get into what it actually does, but look it up for this function right here, reset index. So we get our data in a JSON format, and we just dump it out, as better looking JSON format. Here's what we got. So here we got to do some pre-processing, it looks like, with our prompt. Given the following data with technical indicators in JSON format. Okay, so there's our data. Following optimized parameters and technical indicators. So we've got that we sent out. Generate training signals based on the following conditions. Okay, so this is what it's built around to trigger a entry or exit. Get a buy signal if MACD crosses over the MACD signal line, which is set at, I believe, at 9. RSI is below 30, that sounds right. Or the closing price crosses the lower Bollinger Band. So we get a sell signal if, and again, this is set at 1. We set the sell signal at -1 if MACD crosses the MACD signal line, RSI is above 70, or the closing crosses below the upper Bollinger Band. Yeah, it would make sense. Right. So also provide exit points generated on the signals provided in the JSON format structure. Timestamp. output, and again in JSON, right here, the signal, exit, ensure the timestamps are in chronological order and valid. Okay, so we got more processing here. This is where the real fun begins. So we have a response from OpenAI. We create the prompt with the messages. So that will be prompt right here. So this is the build prompt right here that we send over to ChatGPT. I guess we're using the ChatGPT version 4 with the messages, and we're also prompting it, putting in the role, content, your financial expert role, user, content prompt. So that's the prompting we use. And max token at 1500. Okay, so I guess that's the responses, then ends up in the response. We got some parsing to do. So we're looking for message content and then strip out that. That's part of the more complicated processing. That's one thing I like about Python. It can be done smartly. Print out the raw response, extract the JSON from it, from the signal text. And here we got all our processing. Again, I'm gonna let you figure all that fun stuff out. Load the JSON, get the signals from the parsing. That's why you can see why I left this to the end. Sort signals by timestamp to ensure chronological order. I can guarantee you this is probably the longest time it took somebody to debug this and to build it out. Add exit points based on the next signal timestamp. So to put a target of the exit points is good. Um, and last signal has no exit point. So we get the signals along with the exits as well. That's what I like about this script. So we have here return the signals. Okay, so anywhere in this try an exception, we can get different exceptions and we got to handle it. So we got error parsing, da da da, and that might have been from OpenAI because it sent something bad back, or error fetching a train signals from OpenAI. So those are the two types of exceptions it looks like. So let's go back to the main loop and carry on from generating trading signals. So now we get our signals, which I believe's in JSON format. If there's no signal, no data, basically, it failed to generate anything, and we just continue to the next iteration in the while loop. If we pass that, we can save the database with all the new signals, and now we can exit the trades, and we wait, and then we go to sleep for 1 hour and reassess again. So basically, that's the entire thing. And you may find that kind of complicated. This is the easy way to do it. I don't know how much better I can tell you. Now, I always say there's the quick path, the easy path, and the hard path. This, for some, well, I'd say probably for a lot of people, would be the hard path. If that's the case, you have two options. Two options. If you just want to continue learning what I do and get on my email newsletter, just opt in. And yeah, as I said, just go under the Learn tab, and then I'll send info out to you further. You can get out of it whenever you want by unsubscribing. Also, we've got here another option. If you want to build out a trading business, auto trading business, we can do that too. And you can converse with me within time. I can explain to you. It works flawlessly. It's using TradingView. And if you got other questions, I can help you out there as well. And it's pretty cheap. Once we get over that, we can set you up and carry on to the next step after that. If that helps you out, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.